Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Ryan Wohl podcast. This past weekend was one of the craziest, best sports weekends of the year. And it started on Friday night where we saw a shootout victory for the Washington Huskies. They beat the Oregon Ducks 34 to 31 to go undefeated, move to 13-0 this season, and submit their self into the playoff. And let's get right into it because the playoff was announced on Sunday, and the final field was Michigan ranked number one, Washington number two, number three. It was close, but they gave the number three spot to Texas, and then number four. The shock of the day was when they put Alabama in the 14 field over 13-0 ACC champion Florida State. Florida State, as we know, they're missing their quarterback. That was a big factor in that decision. So they left Florida State out, the first undefeated team to be left out of a playoff. So it's quite of a crazy kind of situation there. But in the games, we saw Alabama beat number one Georgia 27-24 in the SEC championship. We saw Texas blow out Oklahoma State 49-21 in the Big 12 championship. Florida State did win the ACC championship 16-6 over Louisville, and Michigan shut out Iowa 26-0 in the Big 10 championship. But to me, the thing is, it was hard to leave out an undefeated Florida State, but the reason they did it and the reason that it's all right that they did it is because Alabama didn't just beat a good Georgia team, didn't just beat a good SEC team. They beat the number one team in the country this year for the whole season that won, as we know, the last two national championships. So this was a team on the verge of getting to that dynasty standpoint in Georgia this season. So that's the reason that Alabama got in. And to me, they were a lock in my eyes. You can't leave a team out that beats the number one team in the country. Alabama has to make it in. I know Florida State went undefeated, but as Kirk Herbstreit said on the college football playoff selection show, that version of Florida State wasn't 13-0. The version of Florida State right now that we currently see and that we saw in the ACC championship is only 2-0. They've gone through two quarterbacks since Jordan Travis went down. They're on a freshman right now who looked pretty brutal in that ACC championship. And if they would have put Florida State in, it would have been a bye for likely Michigan, who got the number one seed, as they would have done pretty much what they did to number 16 Iowa in the Big Ten championship, would have basically shut them out in that first playoff game. And it's really just great for the fans and for us and everyone that loves college football, because this is the best college football 14 playoff that we've had in the 10th year and in the 10-year history of the college football playoff. You know, a lot of years we have that first game in the semifinals. There are a couple blowouts every year. And this year we have an incredible semifinal matchup. The Rose Bowl is number one Michigan against number four Alabama. Right now, Michigan is a 2.5 point favorite. And then we have number Texas, who's a 4.5 point favorite against Washington. Washington actually is number two, and Texas is number three in that matchup. So, two great semifinal games. I'm extremely excited for those. They should be just amazing. And each team, another thing for the first time in this 10-year 14 playoff history, each team in this 14 field has a legit shot to win the national championship this year. You could tell me any of those four teams will win the national championship, and I would believe you. These are all hot teams, all teams that right now are healthy. All their stars are healthy. Michigan has Harbaugh back. They're not playing with their assistant coach leading the way. So this is just amazing. Also, four big time brands: Michigan, Alabama, Texas are three of the biggest. Washington, they've been in the playoff before. So, yeah, it's just a crazy college football year, in a year where this is the last year of the Pac 12. A Pac 12 team gets in Washington. And the last time we're going to see a four-team playoff. And there's a lot of debate about who should get in. Even Georgia, Georgia losing only one game during the past 3 years, and they don't get in. I know you can't look in past success necessarily, but this year Georgia was the best team the entire season. They basically blew everyone out the whole season, and up until this point, they just they just slipped up against Alabama, and Alabama has had their number in the past. Alabama has had a ton of success in the SEC championship, because that's the last time that Alabama beat Georgia, and Georgia lost their last game was 3 years ago in the SEC championship, and then Georgia beat them that year in the national championship. So yeah, it sucks that they won't get another shot to defend their title, and it's just a shame for the FSU players, coaches, fans, just because when you beat every team in front of you and go 13-0 like FSU has done this season, it's hard to ask for more. It's hard to kind of critique what they've done besides the injury, and that's a big thing. What they've done on the field is they've won every game, they beat every team in front of you, and injuries happen. That's how it is in sports, but they're going to face Georgia now just in a couple weeks in their bowl game. So we'll see how that one goes, and if they do wind up beating Georgia and pull off that upset, then they'll take claim to the national title game even this year. That is in the Orange Bowl. Some of the other notable bowl games this season, and some of the New Year's Six bowls is number 11 Ole Miss is taking on number 10 Penn State in the Peach Bowl. Number 9 Missouri is taking on number 7 Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. And that pretty much rounds out the top teams. The last or two of the other ones, the Fiesta Bowl is number 8 Oregon taking on number 23 Liberty. That's the Fiesta Bowl. That's on New Year's Day, as is the college football playoff matchups. But my alma mater, the Arizona Wildcats, are in their first bowl game in, I believe, 7 years. They're in the Alamo Bowl. They're taking on Oklahoma. Arizona finished the year ranked number 14. So, yeah, that should be a great matchup. They're taking on a number 12 ranked Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel, their star quarterback, just recently entered the transfer portal. So, we don't know if he'll be available for that game, but that should be a great game. That's on December 28th. And just to get more into Arizona, what Jed Fish has been able to do with this program. When he came here, when he came to Arizona, there was relatively no hope left. They were coming off of a couple down years with Kevin Sumlin, no bowl games, because when Kevin Sumlin came, he was expected to bring this team to the promised lands per se. But they got Jed Fish. It started out rough. They won one game during 2020 to 2021, and then the last 2 years winning 5 games last year, and now 9 wins. The potential to get their 10th win, which is just unbelievable stuff. And this is a team built with a lot of good and great young players. Noah Fafita, Tetiora McMillan, they still got another year at least left at Arizona. And entering next season, to me, they're a top 5 to 10 quarterback wide receiver duo in all of college football. These guys are just incredible. Fafita going into next year and into the offseason, being the starter. There's no more controversy. Is DeLaura going to start? Is this? There's none of that anymore. For the first time for Arizona fans in a while, we know who the starting quarterback will be for Arizona moving forward. So that's just a great thing to see. And it's just, they've just been the feel good story for this whole college football season. Jed Fish should get coach of the year. What he's done for this program is just, it's really just unbelievable. It's great to see. And for Jed Fish, for Arizona to bring this program to borderline 10 victories after where they were at, 0-1 just a couple years ago. It's unheard of. It's just legendary stuff. And it was reported that Jed Fish is going to stay at Arizona. He's likely to get a contract extension, a big one of the biggest in Arizona, if not the biggest in program history. So, yeah, we'll see how Arizona does there. We'll see the rest of bowl season, how it shakes out. But another big time fight night this weekend for the UFC took place in Austin, Texas, and it was just unbelievable. This main card was one of the best fight night cards of the entire year. We saw Armin Sarukian knock out Beneil Dariush just a minute into the first round of that main event, and that was just stuff. That was just unbelievable stuff. Armin kind of faked the knee and then knocked him down, and Beneil was out really quickly shortly after that. And I don't remember Beneil Dariush getting finished in a fashion like that in quite some time. Armin was ranked 8 before this. He seems primed for a title shot in the future. He did fight Islam Makhachev, the undisputed UFC lightweight champion, 4 years ago. He lost that fight, but that was a long time ago. Armin was only, I believe, 22 or 23 at that point, so he's a lot older now, and I think that fight would go a lot differently than it did 4 years ago. We're not going to probably see that fight next, but Armin did do a lot for his stock moving forward, and he is in that group of the Oliveras, the Gaethjes. Poirier's behind Gaethje. He just lost to him, but he's in that upper tier now, moved ahead of Dariush, obviously, and I don't know what's next for Dariush. He is 34. I don't know how much longer he'll be doing this, but just he's a good guy. It's a shame for him. He did win 9 straight fights before, and he's dropped the last two. First to Oliveira, now to Armin. But in the co-main event, we saw another crazy knockout in the first round. Jalen Turner knocked out Bobby King Green in the first round, and he did it in crazy fashion. And there was a lot of controversy after this about the stoppage of this fight. It seemed like Turner got off quite a few shots before they stopped it, and many are saying, Ariel Helwani said, and DC have said that this is one of the worst stoppages they've ever seen. So it really was just a shame, because it seemed like Bobby Green was out face down on the canvas for probably about 10-15 seconds, while Turner was just going at him with the ground and pounds until the ref stopped it. It's not Jalen Turner's fault, obviously. The fighters are told until the ref stops it, they have to go. Their job's to get a finish, and that's a shame. Bobby Green was on a 2-fight winning streak. He was on a hot streak there, looking good going into that fight. But Jalen Turner, he took this fight on just 9 days' notice after Dan Hooker hurt his arm, had to get surgery again. And Turner, he did lose to Dan Hooker in his last fight, but in this fight, Jalen Turner looked unbelievable. He's always been a guy that, to me, just matches up very well against the entire lightweight division because he is 6'3". He is a lot bigger and taller than a lot of these lightweights in this UFC division, but he just seems like he doesn't always put it together. But and he's not always aggressive enough. But in this fight, he was aggressive. He finished him in the first round, and Jalen Turner joins Armin Sarukian in that upper echelon in the lightweight division in that top 10 now. And I don't know who Jalen Turner is going to get matched up against, but he is also, like Armin, going to get a big fight in this division. And I don't think there's that many guys that are, calling the UFC's phones to fight Jalen Turner just because, like I said, he's a scary matchup for everyone in the division, and he seems like he's only getting better as he continues on. But in the third fight, moving down here, we're going top to bottom from when they happened, but another great performance. Davison Figueiredo, the former UFC flyweight champion of the world, moved up to bantamweight. He beat Rob Font, and he did it in dominant fashion. He won 30-27 on all three of the scorecards. He dominated him on the ground, 4 takedowns, and he outstruck him in total strikes 53-48. Significant was closer, Rob Font 46-45, but it was just, to me, Figueiredo always looked drained. He always looked like he was out of energy when he was fighting back at 125 pounds, and he looked more at home at 135 pounds. He looked more filled out. He didn't struggle to make weight like he has in the past when he was at 125 pounds, and he showed his strength is a lot better than people give him credit for, especially at 135 pounds. Rob Font is a well built guy. He's a strong 135 pounder, but Figueiredo seemed like he was controlling that fight, doing whatever he wanted to Rob Font, and it was just really impressive. We know how talented he is. He's an elite level fighter, but a lot of people thought him moving up. He is a smaller guy. I believe he's about 5'5", 5'6". How's he going to fare when he's going up 10 more pounds? Because he wasn't a guy that is very heavy in general. So, but he proved everyone wrong. And Figueiredo, to me, right now, the first name that popped in my head of who he could fight next is number 5, Piotr Jan, former champion. He's coming off of a couple losses, but that's a great matchup. Figueiredo is right in the mix of that 135-pound title division right now. He is in that mix, and he could be in the top couple guys in line to get a title shot in the future against Sugar Sean O'Malley, the bantamweight champion right now. The last big fight on this card, and it was the third fight of this card, is a guy that hasn't fought in over a year. He once was 15-0. He lost his last fight, got knocked out by Bilal Muhammad, but that is Sean Brady. He bounced back in a huge way on Saturday. He submitted Kelvin Gastelum in the third round, but before he did that, and he submitted him by a Kamara choke, he was dominating him from start to finish of this entire fight. 5 takedown attempts. His striking did look a little bit better than we've seen from Sean Brady in the past. But yeah, I was just blown away from Sean Brady's performance. You could argue that him dominating a veteran and a former title challenger like Kelvin Gastelum, that is more impressive than any other performance on this card. And there were some great performances on this card, as I previously mentioned. And Sean Brady's another guy. It seems like almost every guy in these last couple of fights who won is in that same situation. But Sean Brady is going to get a top 5 to 7 guy next in this welterweight division. And he called out Ian Gary after, who has a fight coming up against Vicente Luque, and that's a matchup to me that intrigues me a lot. I think that is a guy like Sean Brady, who's so good and so technical on the ground, would be a great test for the up and coming and one of the best UFC prospects in Ian Gary. That's an intriguing one. That would be just fantastic. And Sean Brady at this level, if he is focused and locked in, he is going to be very, very hard to beat in this welterweight division moving forward. But I wanted to thank everybody for tuning into today's show, for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe on my YouTube channel, Ryan Wohl. Please give us a 5-star rating on any platform that you listen to the show on, and we'll see you next time.